Welcome to Three, a show about Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, and part of the Tennis Channel podcast network. I'm Gill with Joel Drucker and Amy Lundy, and it is time to preview the 2022 Roland-Garros draw, where Nadal and Djokovic are, quite frankly, the main headline. We knew this was a possibility. Nadal, the number 5 seed, after not putting in results over the course of the clay court season, he entered, after Indian Wells, he was in the top 4 seeding. And I think we assumed on this very show that, okay, he's got it in the bag. He's looking great. He's going to be a top 4 seed. Didn't happen after the rib injury. And of course, the foot injury taking him out early in Rome. Although I'm not sure that would have mattered, actually, because that's too late for the seedings. As a fan, Amy, as a media member, what's your emotion? Like, are you upset that this is the draw, or are you okay with it or happy?
My emotion is like Murphy's Law, of course. This is the way it happened. I'm a Libra, and we like fairness and balance, and the draw, in my opinion, is out of balance. So I don't like this at all. I think that tennis should examine doing specialty seedings and for surface specific. And it just doesn't make any sense to me that Medvedev is sitting over there on the other side of the draw. And, it's in a place that he doesn't belong, and that the blockbusters, the real blockbuster matches, are going to happen well before the main event.
Well, Libra, wow. Let's hear the Gemini speak. Because to me, when I think of things like fairness, I think that's the nature of a draw. And I've been at numerous slams, as I'm sure you two have too, where it's like something occurs that makes you think, oh, gee, why didn't that happen? Can't something else happen? Why is this person there? And to me, that's the very nature of a draw. So I'm sure, of course, it would be something more compelling in a way to have them meet in the semis or the finals and the clash. It's like, this is part of the game. To me, this is part of the game. And that is the fairness. That is the fairness of the game, because the other stuff can get a real slippery slope. There are numerous things of different things being done with draws and different things being attempted. I could see, okay, if you want to create a weighting somewhat similar to what Wimbledon did for many years, maybe do that. But I don't know what that would have necessarily done for Nadal in this case anyway, but it's moot. So I don't know. It's just kind of like, so here we have it. I mean, you're right. And there's this draw. And to me also, draw casting to me is worth about a round or two at the most. I don't like, I mean, I've done several things sometimes over the years where I've had to do the projected 16s and what if all 16 get there. And next thing you know, I'm bracketing off 16 men and 16 women. It's like, yeah, things happen. Things are going to happen, and then we'll see.
Of course, last year we had a similar thing with Nadal and Djokovic being the co-favorites, and they met in the semifinal. Obviously, not the final. One round later than what we would potentially get this year, but it was really the expected players coming through. The semis was Zverev, Tsitsipas, Nadal, Djokovic, which is exactly what you would have written up as the chalk picks. I don't mind it unless you have a situation, and you never know if it's going to happen, unless you have a situation like Wimbledon 2018, where the final it's a dud. I mean, it's right. You knew that. So that's the Isner Anderson.
But you can't draw and script. You know what I mean?
No, I get that. I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about if we're disappointed that the draw was this, right? And I'm saying that I think the tournament is going to be okay. I think in terms of like climaxing, because Amy's right. You want it to get better and better as it goes, right? You don't want the climax to be in the quarterfinal.
But you don't know. But
well,
you don't know that
it's not just Nadal and Djokovic being in the same quarter. It's also Alcaraz and Zverev being on that side. It's just to me, it's not weighted properly. But, part of this is that these go by the ATP rankings. And, I think that the ATP rankings could be somehow more reflective of, there could be a different algorithm. And don't, ping me too much on this, because I
Yeah.
haven't really figured it out. It's just everything seems so delayed. And for Medvedev to be such a high seed in this tournament, knowing that he's coming off of surgery, his best surface by far is not clay. His home country has, not that that should, depend on his seeding, but his home country has invaded another country. I mean, he's just, if, like I just wrote, if you could short a player, I would short him, because there's almost nothing in that guy's favor. And yet, he's got a really high ranking and an easy draw or very high seeding and an easy draw for this tournament. So it's not that I'm proposing very specific things to remedy the situation. It's just that you asked me my emotion, and I feel that it's a little out of whack.
Well, right. I acknowledge that. And also, let's not forget also, he's played one clay match. He did play a clay match this year.
Medvedev?
Yeah, he lost to Gasquet the other day. He's played one
Right.
match. Play.
Yeah, he lost.
Yeah, one match. So that's another thing that compels the short. In my tennis.com, they asked us to do some pre-tournament forecast. And one thing is to say which seed will lose earlier than you think. And also his third round, that's Kekmanovic. That's not an easy third round. And I don't think there's any solution to it. In other words, I think unless you do something way in advance that says what seedings and rankings are. Otherwise, you do this thing. I've heard about people in some tournaments, not pro tournaments, but they hear what the seedings are, and then they file all their various appeals. These are not sanctioned pro tournaments, but they do that. And I don't think that can work that way in tennis. I think that's just the way tennis kind of goes. And the climax, just because that's a grand match, that's not the climax. It's called the finals. That is the finals. So it's the most dramatic match. That might occur earlier. There might be a match that we don't even, between two people we've never heard of, that goes, the distance in the fifth. And that's a great match, but it moves towards that. And that's just kind of how the storyline of a tournament goes. And I also think once upon a time, everybody was nobody. So there's a reasonable chance that somebody on that lower half is going to get to the finals of Roland-Garros who's never been there before. That's pretty interesting. So that's a really good player simply by dint of having done that.
Yeah, if Tsitsipas isn't there, it's likely going to be someone surprising that we don't expect in the final. The ranking system, it's meant to be fair. It's not meant to be accurate, right? It doesn't attempt to.
It's not meant to be contemporaneous. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to weigh the most recent 3 months over the prior 12 months.
Yeah, it's not meant to weigh surface either. It's not concerned with figuring out what the Roland-Garros seed should be. It's just the system is not concerned with that at all, and it is what it is. But let's move on to what this actually means for Nadal and Djokovic. I think the common logic behind this is, okay, they're at a disadvantage now. If they play in the quarterfinal, they might have less juice for the next two rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a real concern? Or, Joel, is that just something that people like to talk about because there's no tennis to talk about because the draw just came out and people need something to talk about?
Yes to all of the above. I think the concern this time, though, when they met in the quarters in 2015, that was far more emotional and potentially physical for Novak, more emotional. And he proved, then he ended up losing the finals to Wawrinka on the day of Wawrinka's life, where Stan played an unbelievable match. I think for Nadal, it's a physical, emotional dilemma, not situation. That's 75% physical and 25% emotional. Because for him to win that match, given what he's been through and where he's at physically, if that a match occurs, is going to take a lot of effort in a lot of ways. And then we'll have to see. And that's part of the tennis deal also. That's part of what happens to the game. So yeah, that's a little the way it goes. And neither is going to say it's unfortunate we have to meet that early.
Right. Nobody's going to say that. That's not what they do. It's about the fans and the media and the pundits, grumbling and moaning.
I'm past. I had moments in my media journey where I looked at that and I saw something that happened. Oh, gee, I got this is a quarterfinal. Why isn't this a semifinal? And I think I divested that. Well, you know what helped me divest that was when 2001, when I saw Sampras met Agassi, and I was the quarters, and it was the best match they ever played of their 34 matches. It was the highest quality. You ball boying that night, Gill? Were you there?
No, but I did go back and watch it, Joel, on YouTube during the pandemic, the entire match, and I saw yourself and Steve Flink in the media section on TV. So I can confirm that you were there.
I was so much younger then. I'm older than that now. Yeah, I guess you were 2, right? You were 2 that day?
Yes.
Okay, so fight ball boy.
I mean, I don't want to divest myself of my feelings on that. It's just the way I feel. The NCAA college basketball tournament here in the United States does seedings based on, a perception of performance by a panel. And people actually enjoy it. They when the brackets come out, they like to discuss it and debate it and all that. I don't want one of our 3 or Alcaraz who have earned really with their really stellar results. I don't want them to be punished, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And once the tournament gets underway, nobody really cares. And we have a lot to look forward to. I wish that if Novak and Rafa were going to be in the same quarter, that Alcaraz could have been in the other half. But, I'll live. I'll survive.
I'm not convinced that it's a common occurrence that at the end of tournaments, our 3 or other great players often play a long match in the major championship format and lose the next round because of it. I'm just not convinced that that's I'm sure there are moments that it happens. I have seen players wear down throughout the tournament. It's important to get through the first week fresh. I think that's true. But there are so many examples of, first of all, the fatigue not being a factor. I mean, Djokovic had this incredible, last year, this incredible emotional and physical epic in the semis and was down 2 sets to love and had the gas to come back, right? But also because we have, I guess, like attribution error sometimes, a match, let's say it's a 50-50 match. There was a close match in the round prior. The player who had the long physical match loses. It's easy to say, oh, he was gassed because of the last match. Maybe he just lost, right? So
Gill, you yourself said that recently, and I'm racking my brain. Okay, maybe not. I shouldn't say that.
It happens.
It involved Zverev. And I can't remember the tournament or when that was, but it was like credit Zverev because he wore down. It had to have been one of our 3, otherwise we weren't talking about it.
I believe in fatigue, match to match fatigue. I really do. I think the best of 5 day off in between format when these guys are at peak physical fitness. I think they love that. I think it's great. I think that's why we've seen them do so much better at the slams by percentage of tournaments won than they have at the Masters. So I just don't think it's as much of, Rome, going from Madrid to Rome back to back, you just won Madrid. Now you're in the semis of Rome. I think that is hard as heck.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And matches every day, the match every day aspect that we saw, we covered it in Zverev most of all, some scheduling challenges of playing. And he also had that happen to him in Acapulco, where you play into the wee hours of the morning and then you got to play the next day. The day off at the majors is a thing. The experienced players are used to that. So you're saying instead of a recency bias, you want to have a decency bias. Sometimes you just get beaten by a guy who beat you, not because you're gassed, not because he had an easier prior match, just because he's better. He beat you.
Right. You have to watch the match and make a determination. But
Right.
too many people have it as a built-in explanation instead of seeing what the match looks like. And like, if someone's gassed, okay, they're gassed. And some players might be more susceptible to it than others. But if they're not gassed, maybe they just played a long match and lost the next one. Like, that can happen. Anyway, so I just want to get that out of the way, that I'm not fully convinced that that is a common occurrence for R3. And I know they're older now as well, but
Well, this is an issue that won't be going away because now Roland-Garros has this night session.
Right.
So, this is going to be even more a topic of discussion. And the way that it appears that they schedule it, the top contenders take turns doing the night session. So it's not like somebody's on the night schedule the whole way through the tournament, and they get used to their sleep routines and stuff like that. No, somebody's going to do that different routine at some point in the tournament. At least that's the way they did it last year.
Well, that's really interesting. That'll be like the once upon a time at the US Open before Ash Stadium. The night session was kind of the short straw because the lights weren't as good. And it's like Bjorn Borg had a lot of difficulty with that. It's like, oh, I got the night session. I got to play Roscoe Tanner, who's a big server. It's like the night, but now clay, the night session, the weather, at least the day off of recovery. But I think if you're going to play the night session, you pay close attention to the day session to see if you don't create this traffic jam. And it'll be interesting to see how many matches are scheduled on Chatrier by day so they can clear it out for this night session. And it's very interesting. And clay creates some challenges for that because the points are so much long, not so much longer, but notably longer. I mean, we saw that all spring in Madrid and Rome.
what about the idea that if Nadal, and I think we discussed this last year, the two times Djokovic has beaten Nadal on court Philippe Chatrier, it was a quarterfinal in 2015 and a semifinal in 2021. Is there really something about Nadal on a Sunday that gives him a little something extra at Roland-Garros with the pedigree that he has, Amy?
Yes, I think he has proven over his Grand Slam history that on final Sunday, he's going to bring something superhuman. But Djokovic is as well. That's why I wish they could meet in the finals. But we actually don't know the status of Nadal right now.
True.
Zero idea. So much has been said and videos taken, and Rafa tweeted today, and just nobody knows what kind of shape or condition he's going to be in.
Let's talk about that.
Well, I just want to cut back to this thing about
Okay.
Rafa in the finals. I think in the finals, he sees a finish line. And you see, for example, the 2020 final, okay, one big push and let's just give it all and we'll just collapse. I mean, that's the whole special part. And again, and Novak does that too. I mean, look at Novak in all these finals that he's won. But Rafa's something about that Chatrier is very, very special. So yeah, you want to talk about Nadal and his health?
Yeah.
I think this draw though is pretty favorable for him that way on the exertion front. I don't know what you guys think. Jordan Thompson, maybe Rawinka. And it's not Schwartzman and his, it's not as physically labor intensive as some of the other opponents.
Yeah, I think he's glad it's not Schwartzman. He gets Jordan Thompson in the first round. Let's wait a second and we'll end with just a quick summary of what we can see in that match. Plays the winner of Mutet and Wawrinka. Opelka and FAA, two big servers who, I mean, Opelka a different level than FAA, and FAA is of course more mobile. Those are the top seeds. And the round three, Botic van de Zandschulp, who I'm very high on. I think he's great, playing great tennis, but obviously not at a top 10 on clay kind of level. But also Fabio Fognini, who has beaten Nadal, has just had great success against Nadal relatively, compared to the fact that the difference that they are as players overall. Fognini has a bunch of wins, including the U.S. Open, from down 2 sets to love. So, Amy, do you agree with? Go ahead, Joel.
Botic was the name that jumped out at me. Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, no, Fognini doesn't jump out at me as a significant contender that way anymore. I think the U.S. Open win 7 years ago, and I think Fognini is going to be like, it's like that's an easy question for it. Nadal knows the answer to that question with Fognini. It doesn't mean he's not going to have to work, and Fognini's not going to hit. He'll hit 27 winners and some great shots. But I think Nadal knows how to kind of squeeze Fognini well enough. And so, what about, and there's Karatsev in there too. So that's kind of interesting. But again, Nadal, it's not a bad, I mean, we don't know these qualifiers who are in there also yet, but it's not a bad section for him.
I agree with that. Yeah, I do. Now, of course, it's more about Nadal. And I think, right, that is to say that it's not the opponent that is necessarily going to be a huge problem, but it might be Nadal himself. That's kind of what I think that means. I'm kind of ignoring all of the analysis that I'm seeing from people watching him practice. I mean, can we, what do we think of that? I just think that you cannot put really any weight into what he's looking like at a practice level intensity. Now, I mean, Nadal hits the ball 100 million miles per hour, and then everyone says, oh my God, he looks incredible. That's not really what I'm concerned about. Okay, I'm concerned about him going from corner to corner to corner for 3 hours, and that's not practice.
Yeah, I didn't even look at it today, and normally I look at that kind of thing just because I like to. I did see the video of him practicing at his academy where he was hitting the ball very hard, but he wasn't being moved side to side. And that concerned me. And then I did read a report that he was in pain after practicing at his academy. Other than that, I just haven't watched it because I'm scared that I might see something that he's hurt or something.
It's interesting though, as I hear this talk about these things, I just think back to like well over a year ago when we had the talk about Federer. Remember we saw Federer practicing and you saw something, Amy, and how Federer, when he mishit a backhand and you read that as a tea leaf, and I go, oh, gee, there's a hit. But sure enough, you're right. So it proved kind of revealing about an aspect of Roger, but I people practice things. I mean, and Nadal, we don't know. We don't know. And we'll see after each and every match, and we'll still see. I think though, in its odd way though, the best of 5 with days off is more physically favorable to the greater players than these compressed Masters style 2 out of 3, where someone can play 1.7 good sets and squeak you out. It's like the task of climbing the best of 5 set mountain versus these guys is daunting for any opponent. Can I keep this up?
That's a really good point, Joel. And as we know, because we've all played matches before, preparing mentally for a match it's kind of a mountain to climb, and you start with your routines and you watch what you eat and you pack your bag a certain way and you warm up sometimes for as much as an hour, or maybe you hit that morning. I mean, it is an exhausting process just to go through prep for a match. So having to do that every day is very, very tiring. So I've heard many players say, men and women, that they enjoy the off day of the Grand Slam and the rhythm of it.
Raise your hand if you've ever played 5 sets of singles in one helping. You guys ever do that?
I plan on doing it at some point, but no.
Do it sooner while you're still in your 20s, Gill. I did it twice. I did it once when I was like 16, and I did another time when I was about 32. And I'll tell you, it's an intriguing physical experience. And granted, I'm no world-class athlete, but just the feelings and the ebbs and the flows and the points, and just kind of like, it's like reading a 900-page book. And you talk with pros about it, there's a lot less situations to train for it, to actually do it. Davis Cup has been streamlined, no more best of 5 and anything other than the majors. Am I right? I mean, they used to have it in some of the Masters thousands. So the great Roy Emerson, what he would do sometimes is very simple thing he would do to practice for these matches: play 6 sets, play 6 sets
Wow.
practice. I mean,
Wow.
but it's kind of like it's kind of logical, isn't it? It's kind of
Mhm.
play.
As long as you don't hurt yourself.
When did he
yeah.
retire? Joel, what age did he retire?
Emerson.
Yeah.
Emerson won the Wimbledon doubles when he was 34. He got to Wimbledon quarters when he was 33.
There you go.
But granted, they were playing on softer surfaces then, and I get that. But still, it's
And
something.
I had the good fortune of being on court with Emerson a few years ago. I don't know that he is retired still.
I see him at this fantasy camp. I go to John Newcomb's. He loves being on the court. He's a total court rat. But these guys put a lot of miles. This is a guy who not in one single point in the 20 years he played Wimbledon ever served and stayed back. Singles or doubles, first, second serve. Different game, different deal, different. But still, the idea of training, like, for example, I wonder how many of these players, the contenders who wish to beat Novak or Rafa, when was the last time they played 3 sets in practice? Much less 5, much less 6, regardless of how physical the game is.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good point about the days off. And I was talking to Sophie Amiak, former pro, about a women's player who I forget. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, I remember who it was now. Svitolina. Amazing results in outside of majors. Not as good at majors. It's the same format. And I said, what is with this? And Sophie's like, she doesn't like the day off. So
she doesn't like the day off.
She doesn't like it. It gives her too much time to think, and maybe it kind of fries her mentally and fries her nerves.
How interesting. So no day off to save the tennis. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yep. Let's talk about Djokovic's section. Anything stands out here? He will play Nishioka round 1. Again, let's save that. Winner of Choria and Molchan. They played this morning. Molchan won, I think it was 6-3, 6-2 in it was Lyon. And Dimitrov and Schwartzman are the top seeds on the other side. I'll just say, Molchan is similar to Van de Zandschulp on like a lower level. I like Molchan a lot. He actually played Djokovic in the Belgrade 2 final, and it was an absolute blowout. He's not ready for this kind of moment, but I am a fan of him, and I'm excited for more people to watch him play. That's what happens when you play a player like Djokovic at a major. Amy, what do you think of Djokovic's section?
Yeah, I don't anticipate any problems, especially with the way that Novak's been playing and has primed himself to peak at Roland-Garros. Honestly, Schwartzman, Dimitrov, none of those guys really. I mean, Diego hasn't been playing. He's been playing okay, but he's not like Diego pre-pandemic. Dimitrov has been playing well, but he doesn't seem to make it past the quarterfinals, or he seems to have like a good run, but nothing awesome. And I don't think that clay is his best surface anyway.
I would agree with that. I think, though, a few odd situations looking through the draw, just oddly. Okay, Brooksby hasn't played on clay that much. Cuevas is kind of a wild slasher, something that could be kind of intriguing.
Post-prime.
What's that? Post-prime.
Post-prime.
Sure. Post-prime. But if he plays in a weird way, a guy like that will give himself a different kind of shot against a Novak, because he's just going to throw some punches and try to do something. Whereas these other guys, like I see Coric, who's coming back, and these other ones, Novak is kind of the house money these days. It's funny. Oftentimes we hear how the player with the big weapons, like a Sampras or a Federer, it's like, well, they have to adjust to me in my game. But that's kind of what it is playing Novak. I think for Novak in this first few rounds, it's just, I've got my tempo. I think that Rome, the whole methodical approach and capping off with Rome kind of vindicated how Novak has approached 2022. I don't have that many miles. Yeah, I didn't do that whole hardcourt thing. Look at me now. It's kind of like the thing we said last time. Look at the switch of the way the years have gone for Nadal and Djokovic. Oddly enough, who'd have thunk it? Nadal doing well through the hardcourt season, and then his body betrays him. Novak, not as much hardcourt. And then, but you see Cuevas. An odd scenario could see Dimitrov beating a Schwartzman, but that would make it even easier for Novak, because I think Dimitrov Novak, I know this is looking way ahead on the drawcasting, is that's a nice matchup for Novak on clay. One-handed backhand.
Just a little note to mention, Molchan is now being coached by Marian Vida, right?
Oh, you know what? That's incredible that I didn't think of that. Good,
Yeah,
good
so
thinking.
that could be, you know, kind of a hug it out kind of moment, but I don't see Novak letting that one get by him.
Oh no, I think that's kind of a neat one. That's like, didn't we have didn't Felix, when he was working with Uncle Tony, play Rafa once, and we saw, you know, that's kind of like one of those, oh yeah, there you are. And so there you are. And so what? So Vida's going to give all the secrets, and he still won't give all the secrets because he won't know all the secrets. And but it's kind of a little plotlet, little nice little thing.
Yeah, us broadcasters will appreciate it as a storyline. I think the person who will be most uncomfortable with that will definitely be Vida. Agreed. I mean, I don't think Molchan will think about it much. I don't think Novak will. I mean, once you're in the match, you have something to really, you know, focus on and be in the zone, and in the moment you have an opponent. Vida's going to be sitting there, and I feel like it might be a little weird for him.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I think
it's weird.
Well, if I had to guess, and I don't have any insider knowledge, I would guess that Marian and Novak still chat from time to time or keep in touch. So I think it would probably be more like, oh yeah, we just caught up the other day on the practice court. You know, it wouldn't be awkward, I don't think,
No,
because
I think it's awkward, but I think it'll be just, I agree that of those three, the one who's going to be having the most emotions going on will be Vida, because it's like, I was embedded with this Novak for so long, and I just think I have so much respect for him because of the whole waves he rode through, the loyalty he had, the even knowing he had to take a back seat at times, the coming back, the parting, and pretty much, to my knowledge, never saying anything publicly about anything, no secrets, no rancor, no nothing. He just was loyal. And now they're probably they might still be cordial and friendly, and now he's with this other guy, so it's going to stir some things up in him. But
yeah, Vida did tell Saza Osmo that he told Goran that he was going to coach Molchan and relied on Goran to tell Novak. So I'm not sure they're chatting frequently, but I also believe that Novak, as he says, you know, family forever, marrying Vida. I just think it's going to be weird watching Novak lose the point and you're Vida, and I almost think you have a reflex to be happy about that and not upset. So let's get to the first round opponents. And I mean, I don't know how much there's going to be said about this, but I'll just lay out the information. Djokovic has a 2-0 head-to-head with Yoshi Nishioka, meeting in Davis Cup, best of 5 sets. And then another one, I didn't write it down. Anyway, 5-love in sets. 6-3 was the closest score they've had in any of the sets. Nishioka is kind of an underpowered player who doesn't like clay. He hasn't won a main draw match on clay this year. He qualified in Munich, lost first round to Ruusuvuori. Then he lost to Musetti and Cerundolo in Madrid and Rome qualies. But he's a lefty.
Good luck.
He's a lefty with an extreme grip, Joel.
He's a lefty with extreme grip. So then, okay.
Nadal doesn't have an extreme grip. Let me be clear. It's just the spin is almost like he does.
So does Novak deploy some of the tactics that are going to help him win the tournament, or does he just want to win the match? And so the question for a great player in the early rounds is, do they do some R&D on a few other things that add their game, whether it's in Novak's case, okay, backhand return down the line to the backhand, or you just go with the meat and potatoes cross court. And it's kind of be a variety of things. I mean, it's a very comfortable matchup for Novak. Very.
I think you're less likely to do R&D at this tournament at the first, second, third round at Roland-Garros, only because you've been through the entire clay season and you've gotten acclimated to the surface. And this is the hard one where physically it's really hard. So you don't want to play around too much that you would actually drop a set in the first round.
What is R&D?
Research and development. So in other words, do you
Yeah, Joel, I didn't learn that in journalism school.
Well, I told you not to major in journalism. I told you, I told you that. So
Too bad that we met Gill in his junior or senior year and he couldn't have changed his major anyway.
that's fine that you're going to the most prestigious, broadcast media school in the world. So it's just a question of, that's a really good point, Amy. It's like, hey, Novak, in Novak's mind, I played 4 clay court tournaments. I've trotted out lots of the plays. Let me just go through this meat and potatoes and get through this as quickly as possible, instead of suddenly getting all cutesy wootsy. And next thing you know, I'm down 1-3 in the 3rd set, and I gotta pull something out to keep it from going 4. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Nadal has Jordan Thompson round 1, 1-0 head-to-head. Lone meeting at Nadal's least favorite tournament, the Paris Masters, and Rafa still won in straights. Thompson's coming off a loss to the world number 225 in the, Tunis Challenger. I don't know exactly where that is.
Tunisia?
No, it's Tunis.
Oh, okay.
Tunis, yeah.
Tunis?
Yeah, that's in Tunisia. Yeah.
Oh, it's in Tunisia.
I'm pretty sure.
Maybe, is it a city?
Well,
Let's
I
stop.
will look now that we've discussed it. Oh, it's the capital. It's the capital of Tunisia.
Yeah, okay. I've got a good friend in Tunisia. Shout out to Amin. How are you? Glenza, Amin Glenza.
So they played at the Paris. So I guess this is a cinema reference, Gill. They'll always have Paris. Jordan and Rafa. I mean, yeah, Jordan and Rafa. So I think that's a pretty user-friendly one for Rafa also, don't you guys think?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yes, but we'll be able to gauge how he's feeling and, the look on his face and his movements. We'll have some idea.
Mm-hmm.
The grimace factor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. Well, it's going to be a fun ride. We look forward to covering this Roland-Garros. Thanks everybody for watching. Remember, we're available on all podcast platforms. We appreciate it if you leave a rating and a review on Apple, and if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you next time on the next episode of The Brief.